There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these pieces.
Then please educate me on
sure.
What
so an audit
the
is exactly what you just described,
yes.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit or the fact that the DOD has not passed an audit is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false right there. So
what is
now it's a question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world,
yeah,
that's waste.
How is that waste?
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, look, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure
that
I didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went. Like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. And especially when they see food insecurity on military bases, and they see...
You want to talk about that? Because that's a good... We should be talking... I mean, well, I'm trying to understand where you're trying to go, other than the dollars, which really bother you.
I think it doesn't really bother me. I think it's all connected.
Okay.
I think
tell
when
me that story. Tell me how you're thinking about that.
When I see...
Hello, everybody. Today is Monday, February 10th. I apologize, February 10th. It is 8:30 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee. So there you have a nice interview with Jon Stewart. Now, there are two things that jumped out at me in that interview about auditing. Her claim is that just because we can't explain it wasn't wasted, that it could have went to the right place, that doesn't mean that fraud didn't occur. That means someone did something illegally or abused the system. Okay, but there is a fourth one that is probably a decent possibility, and that is incompetence. Listen, public listed companies on exchanges have to do reports all the time, and they get fined if they're inaccurate, especially if it's a big number, something to that effect. And they will be investigated should that be. We ever heard of embezzlement, for example? Okay, here, and this is the mindset of government employees. It's their money, not the taxpayers. And that, oops, no big deal, you know. And the second comment she makes, oh, you're worried about the money. Well, yes, we're worried about the money. Where did it go? And unless you can say otherwise, you have to suspect waste, fraud, or abuse. In this particular case, you don't know, because it's not just from one source within the DOD audit, the Pentagon glass, or other audits. There are multiple sources of inconsistencies. Maybe one's abuse, maybe one's fraud, maybe, one's a kickback. Okay, and maybe some of it is incompetence. Oh, we did send a $1.2 million check to ABC Corporation, but it wasn't logged correctly, and we can't do it. So let's call that company and verify and recreate that paper trail. And that's what needs to be done. See, if you can't say where it went and verify it through your systems, well, then you got to do it the old-fashioned way. Otherwise, you're now accountable as your job. If a CEO did that, he'd be thrown out and investigated, possibly criminally. It shows you her mindset and her absurdity. Okay. Now I get what she's kind of saying, but then there's incompetence. That means heads have to roll then. And then the ones that we can pin on incompetency, well, then we have to figure out where the other dollars have to went. One, it serves as accountability because it's not their money, it's the taxpayers. Two, it creates efficiency. And three, it prevents it from happening again. It's called accountability. And right now, the government hasn't done this. It's like the USAID situation. I mean, it's a very simple grift. You know, I know so and so. Let me start an NGO that has a similar ideology, okay, and I become this charity, and then, you know, I move and live in the same neighborhood in Alexandria, Virginia, or McLean, or Montgomery County, Maryland, and I have connections because my dad was this or my mom was that. You know, I give myself that big salary, and then I advocate for something, and then the money just flows right from USAID because the specific dollar amounts are not approved by Congress. Just the funding to USAID, and then they kind of cipher out where it goes. And then that NGO or that person getting paid for that makes political contributions to PACs that back Democratic Party candidates. So your taxpayer dollars are going to that while enrich to ideologies you don't believe in against the law, and they're enriching themselves personally while promoting their ideological agenda and wasting money. Okay? And it's just criminal. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Oh my God. So let's move on from this debacle. So let's start here with continue on this front a little bit here. So all right. So we all know, breaking constitutional crisis unfolding. Obama appointed New York federal judge Paul A. Engelmeyer has issued an ex parte order that barred POTUS Trump from chief executive from appointing anyone to audit critical U.S. Treasury Department databases. Okay, so we know about this ruling already. Everybody's probably already heard about this. So I wanted to give my thoughts on this. So to me, it's a very simple equation. Okay, first of all, we do know no statute was cited, no law was cited, no constitutional clause was cited. Just said no. Okay, well, that's not good enough. Okay, judges cannot legislate nor just give dictatorial decrees. Okay, and that's why they have appellate courts and the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, to kind of hedge against idiots like this Engelmeyer guy. But here's one simple thing, and this is also related to the classified documents. Okay, the president is the elected head of the executive branch. Everyone underneath him works at behest of the president. Okay? He can't pass certain laws. He can't do certain things without Congress, particularly funding, power of the purse rests with the U.S. House of Representatives, etc. And the court system is supposed to interpret the Constitution. Okay? This is an executive function. This is an administrative function. Okay? If someone at the Treasury Department, okay, can have access to these payment systems, that means the president has to, okay, have that ability. And if the president has that ability, he can delegate it to the confirmed U.S. Treasury Secretary, Bessent. Okay? Now, he didn't rule President Trump could. So does President Trump, can he walk Bessent over and be in the same room with him, say, I'm accessing it, but he's going to look on too? Because what it says, what that means is, that means an unelected employee of the president has therefore more power than the president, at least on this particular issue. And that is just an insane thing. The administrative state does not work outside, or it does, but it's not supposed to work outside of the chain of command of the president. Okay? Because it is the accountability to the electorate that the president has that these employees do not have. Same thing with classified documents. Okay? If the president says this is declassified and some general says, no, you can't do that, well, the president's the commander in chief. End of story. End of story. And that is the key. That's how you create a fourth arm, a bureaucracy, an administrative state, deep state whichever way you want. Same thing with USAID. Okay. You know, and you hear in the whiny stories, you know, apparently like we were employing all these people in Jordan. Why? You know, oh, we're gonna, these people are going to lose their jobs. That's not the purpose of USAID. It's supposed to advance American national interests with slight charitable functions in an original founding. But it still falls at the behest of the President of the United States, especially if they go against the official foreign policy of the United States. Congress did not pass a statute or a law that said X amount of dollars had to go to ABC. That's not happened. Therefore, it is under the direct control of the President of the United States. Okay? And that's what the absurdity of this. Now, here's the very simple solution. Since the Biden administration ignored plenty of orders, especially by activist Obama appointees from New York, okay? Just the hell with it. Ignore it. Go up the food chain, but continue to proceed forward in the food chain in terms of district court, U.S. Supreme Court have to. Just keep going. What are they going to do? Nothing. Because it's absurd. Okay? It'd be like if a judge just ruled an insane order just like this, but let's say, you know, the president has to shoot every firstborn in the state of Alabama. Well, the president's not going to do that. But some lunatic judge might do that. So it's probably not, but I'm just making an extreme example to show my point. The president is going to ignore that order. Well, this is the same boat here. Well, not as extreme. It's not. Absolutely, the president and the person who was confirmed by the U.S. Senate, elected U.S. Senate, has access to his entire department. End of story. Just ignore it. Okay. That's exactly what the Democrats would do. So I just thought I'd get my point. Those are the 2 points. I'm hearing a lot about numbers, whatever, but that is the key main fact. Who has the constitutional authority? In this case, it is the president and the Secretary of the Treasury. So, if on here, I'd like to start with some breaking news. After this, scroll up here, my Twitter feed here. Here we go. Now we're talking about Trump's nominations. Okay. Well, this was just a little bit ago from Senator Lisa Murkowski. We'll call her the 1 and 3. Collins the other. Mitch McConnell the third. I did say because Gabbard was a woman, maybe that would have something to do with it. They can relate better behind closed doors, whatever. But here's her statement. She will vote to confirm. Now, in my opinion, with Lisa Murkowski's vote, that gives cover to Collins. I think Collins will come out. And then that means you would need, if Mitch McConnell goes, 2 more Republicans. And I just don't see that. And I still wouldn't be surprised if there was a Democrat still who hasn't decided that might come out. But anyway, although they're going to hold ranks, just like Fetterman said he was going to come out against it. But I will vote to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, while I continue to have concerns about certain positions she has previously taken. I appreciate her commitment to rein in the outside scope of the agency while still enabling the ODNI to continue its essential function in upholding national security. As she brings independent thinking and necessary oversight to her new role, I am counting on her to ensure the safety and civil liberties of American citizens remain rigorously protected. So that's good. I didn't check the betting markets, but I guarantee you it spiked on that one. She would be the one Republican I thought would most likely to go no. And I think that's a good sign. So I've still got my Twitter feed up. This recently was a post. Look at this. Troops, vehicles along the border. It only took 3 weeks to do what the rest never did. Make Mexico a partner in securing the southern border. So the 10,000 troops promised are starting to arrive on the border. So that's good news. Effectiveness using those tariffs and leverage. All right. So now I thought we'd jump a little bit. There's one little story I just wanted to show before we hit that. And this was at the end of last week. After I made my last video, this came out. And it's basically true. Breaking. Grand total of 0 major news outlets yesterday reported the fact that President Trump's FEMA resolved 80% of all open Hurricane Helene victim cases in western North Carolina in just 5 days. Now, remember the week prior, J.D. Vance came down. We showed pictures of all these new activities, vehicles. They increased funds to troops, to housing. They extended housing payments in existing housing. They upgraded housing for people who were displaced, and they really made a move. So this is a good thing. These people were forgotten. You know, if they were legal immigrants or Ukrainians, they definitely would have gotten help much sooner. But because these are people of Appalachia in the mountains, more than not Trump voters, they were just treated like trash. So it was a good thing that very quickly that they went to move this. And they still got a little bit to go, but at least they're on the right track and got most of it done. So then you can go right, once you secured everybody, their safety, security for the long term, then you can really begin the rebuilding process. So I think that's good. So now let's jump on to
Mi otthon 15 éve építjük a szabad, konzervatív és keresztény Magyarországot. Magyarország ma a konzervatív politika laboratóriuma. Megvédtük magunkat a migrációtól. Nálunk nem jut be egyetlen illegális migráns se Európába. Migrációban Magyarországon nincs kompromisszum. A migránsok száma Magyarországon 0. Bevándorlók helyett a saját magyar családjainkat támogatjuk. Mi Magyarországon kitiltottuk a gender propagandát az iskolából. Beleírtuk az alkotmányba, az anya nő, az apa férfi. A munkanélküliséget felszámoltuk. Európa legalacsonyabb adóját fizetik a cégek. Az állam nem bünteti, hanem jutalmazza a munkát. Amikor 15 évvel ezelőtt mi magyarok szembefordultunk a progresszív világelittel, azt mondták nekünk, hogy őrültség, lehetetlen, politikai öngyilkosság. Mi nem hallgattunk rájuk, megcsináltuk, és ma itt állok önök előtt. Magyarország az élő bizonyíték, hogy lehetséges, ezt meg lehet csinálni.
Now, that was Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary. I just want to read you this. The example of Hungary proves that a country can be successful even if you refuse to follow what the progressive global elite dictates. This elite has been dealt a major blow by President real Donald Trump. Now it's our turn. The turn of the Patriots EU to finish the job in. So why was he speaking? What was he to? So Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary, he was at a conference in Spain, Madrid, and it was a conference of the Patriot Group. Now that's the new group that was formed, okay, in the European Parliament. See, national parties in European countries are affiliated with the European Parliament Coalition Party in the European level, okay? So right now, it's like I think it's called the S&D is like the real left, globalist left coalition. There's Greens, which is even more left of that. Then there come small parties. Then there's the EPP, which would be your more establishment, kind of globalist, corporatists, a little less government type party, center right. And then you have the Patriots group. Okay, in the Patriots group, it's got Hungary's group, the National Rally of France. It's got Vox in Spain. Okay, the PVV, Wilders Party in Holland, etc. Okay, there was a new bloc because there was a decision to keep the off day of Germany kind of out a while back. So they're under a party with one party from the Czech Republic and other areas under the ESN. And the Patriot Group has about 87 members, I think's the number. The EPP about 160. The left a little bit less than that. But with some upcoming European elections, they're getting ready for them because they're coming in some of the nations coming up. So they had a conference working together, working for their ideas, right? Because we've discussed that like these are the same MAGA type center-right populist ideas, okay, that in all these nations, with all their own little national nuances, right? But in Europe, whatever. So that was a good conference going forward. I think they're going to make gains as these European parliament, just like they are in national elections. This Patriots group is going to make gains in European parliamentary elections in their countries as they come up. They might have to work something out, especially if AfD does well, to maybe bring them in the fold, or at least a coalition to try to overtake EPP if they ever want to take over the European Parliament. So I just thought I'd show you that video, and I like to show the commonalities of these movements to our movement here in the United States. All right. So moving on. So this was out of the Telegraph. Bank of England suffers exodus of gold bullion. So, was that? So if you go on to read the article, something like 8,000, nearly 2% of the gold reserve of the Bank of England has been pulled out over the last couple months. A lot of people attain that to Trump's tariffs and so forth. But also, apparently, the gold price, spot price in the U.S. is higher than that in London. So people have been pulling it out to try to leverage that difference in price gap. I don't know 100% like that, but it just shows you under this Starmer insane progressive globalist. I mean, they're the worst right now, the British government out of all. I mean, they're worse than Macron's and March Party in France by far. This party, because it's really hard left, it's ultra globalist, and and there's a rumor that new security law that they're rewriting, which basically ends free speech online whatsoever. Okay, we all know about them arresting people for posting things and so forth, but there's rumors now that they're rewriting it. So I don't know if Trump got to him or something like that, or had threatened him and mentioned some trade agreements. I don't know the details on it, but I saw several reports about that today as well. So I just wanted to give you an update because I thought that was very interesting. At 2%, that's a big chunk to have been pulled out of the reserves there. So get on some more foreign stuff. So let's go to Syria here. Syria could allow Russia to keep its bases, new defense minister says. So it's reported that, if you don't know, Russia has 2 bases along the coast of the Mediterranean. And they have said that, that they'll be allowed to keep those bases there. And I'm sure a lot of it will be depend upon what the West, the U.S., Britain, and everything comes up with this new government, because I know they're going to want the Russians out. But it seems like the Syrian government's kind of playing their game a little bit. Well, they're here, whatever. Let's see how our relationship goes with that. We know that they're allowing Turkey to build 2 military bases, up to 50 aircraft on those military bases in their sector of Syria. So, this government's still only controlling that core area that, from Aleppo all the way down, because the other area is really just kind of open desert-like. But, and they're still consolidating their control of their government, and they going around, and it sounds like they're playing countries off one another right now, in my opinion. And I think that's what they're doing here with letting the Russia leave their military bases. Hey, and if, you don't know what kind of relation will come to that. And they know Russia still wants to have access to the Mediterranean. So it looks like they're trying to play Russia off that. Let's see what the West will give us if we kick the Russians out. That kind of game. So with that, this was a map released that was found floating around by the Interior Ministry. But if you look at the map, they don't have Alexandretta region in the new map of Syria, nor the Golan Heights. And that's very interesting. One, it's Turkey. That's the big key area that Turkey's operating, where at least one of the military bases is going to be. And the other is Golan Heights, where Israel is just, they moved in 70 miles in, once the Assad government fell. And that's past the Golan Heights that has always been in dispute for decades, which Israel basically controlled anyway. So I think that's it. Was there a deal going on there? We know there has been connection between HDS prior to the Assad fall and some Israeli troops, and encounters and videos going on about that, helping them out, feeding them, things like that. There was an also thing I wanted to say that you might have seen floating around was Senator Kennedy of Louisiana's speech about USAID and Musk, and he's going on it about how the Democrats are upset, but this is what he found. What was very interesting in there was a clip that showed X amount of dollars, millions of dollars, to El Nusra. And it didn't even dawn on Senator Kennedy. But El Nusra, he did say Al-Qaeda link group, El Nusra, HDS is the heir apparent of Al Nusra. Now, it's got other groups that joined it, but the main ingredient of HDS was Al Nusra. So there's a link right there where a U.S. Senator just admitted on the floor of the U.S. Senate that taxpayer funds were going to HDS. Now, I believe he said it had to do with like meals or something to that effect, but it's irrelevant. If they're not buying food, they use that money they're going to buy for food, for weapons, or buy some training, or logistics support, or buy off people in the Assad government. Point of the matter is, we were funding the HDS government run by Jelani, who was in Al Nusra, who was in the top 10 wanted list with a $10 million bounty on it. Okay? Clearly involved, right? So that just shows the USAID is, not only is it pushing ideological stuff, it is in bed with, I'm sure, lots of groups and activities with the, National Soros's National Endowment for Democracy, right? As long as it's for democracy, we'll shoot the money, even though there's either a dark agenda, a left-wing DEI agenda, something to that effect. So, moving on to a little Ukraine war. So, this is Avdiivka, okay? They've pretty much taken control, the Russians, all that, there in the southern. This is that key road that we've been following, highway. And the reason why, now if you look at the map a little bit, there's still a gap, and even east of this map that's not on the screen there, that's carved out. And that's because the Ukrainians are trying to hold on because the highway is very important. But they're on close to just closing this off. And those two villages in the middle, I hear Russia is very close to taking those. And that means Ukrainians will have to pull out of everything east because they're just completely surrounded from the south, the north, and the east. And they'll just either get trapped quickly or they'll withdraw. Now, the big news over the weekend is the city of Toretsk in Donetsk has finally fallen. We knew there was coming any day now. It completely fell. Russian Ministry of Defense announced it over the weekend. It was confirmed by multiple mappers and sources that have been correct in the past. This is just one of them. All right. The red there on the top is showing them the key part. Here's another mapper who's got it under complete Russian control. Now, moving on. This is an image of Pokrovsk. Now, you can see, it's compared to some of the other cities I've shown you pictures and videos of, it's a little bit more intact. But this is the last big gem and hub center. It's got industrial parts to it. It's a hub, an intersection of highways go through there. Extremely important to the Ukrainian. And it's really the last line of defense of Donetsk. Except for up in the northern Donetsk area where Kramatorsk and Slavyansk is once Chasiv Yar falls. But at least in southern Donetsk, this is the last stand. And after this, you're into the next oblast. And to the west of Pokrovsk, they're already right up to the next oblast, Dnipropetrovsk. And they're moving to the east of it. But there are reports over the weekend that actually, and I did report about a week ago in one of my videos, that artillery and strikes have been hitting the outskirts and Pokrovsk proper, because there are a lot of little villages around it. And Russia's been using tactics of very small groups because it's open areas to just get people across day and night and then reorganizing on the side. But there are reports now that reconnaissance units, demolition units, and teams have made it to Pokrovsk proper over the weekend. So between Toretsk falling, Pokrovsk, Russians basically entering the city, and Chasiv Yar close to falling, that's that whole southern and central Donetsk is pretty much control out of, except for a few villages. And like I said, after that it'll be Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. And then I found this in Kursk, where the Russians seem to have put some big pressure. They have pushed back some kind of counterattacks because Ukraine has been throwing reserves into that region, and they've launched several attempts at counterattacks. Didn't work, but Russia's now pushing in from the northwest. I also heard reports from a couple of sources I trust that the Russians knew about the Kursk offensive, and they kind of let it happen, which is why the evacuations, when it happened, kind of went smoother. It's like they were planning for it, and they knew it, and they sucked them in because it increased the amount of mileage the Ukrainians of the total front they have to defend, and because it's inside Russia proper, Russia was able to launch much more and get supplies there, and it was just a way to just trap the Ukrainians and grind them down. So I'm going to show you a map from the beginning of, it's in video time, basically over the last 7 months of the Kursk incursion. That's the initial territory. So basically, from August, when they launched this Kursk offensive, the Ukrainians, they've lost 65 to 70% of the territory they gained. And the Russians did it slow, methodically, minimal losses. Ukraine has lost 40 to 50,000 in this. God knows how much equipment. And it was closer to Russians' main supply lines and closer to the homeland. So it was very easy for them to, they could bring up reinforcements quicker, supplies quicker, more drones quicker, more tanks, artillery rounds quicker and quicker, right? That's it. And also in the north, the Russians are advancing into towards Kupiansk and the Kharkiv region. So not looking good for the Ukrainians, which is why, Zelensky starts sounding more and more nuts. We need nuclear weapons. What? Not going to happen, dude. Then he says, well, my people don't want elections. He said that over the weekend. So, right, everything's for democracy. Anyway, so that was a quick update on this Monday. It's good about Murkowski. I'll be keeping up on what's going on. I haven't seen any major shifts in the polling with the upcoming German elections on February 23rd. So I'm going to keep following that polling. Like I said, I see 8 to 10 between the CDU and the AfD. I'll be keeping out to see what's going on, continuing the Ukraine front, see if we can fight back against these court cases, see how Trump moves on that. If he just continues to go ahead, that will be great, because I think that's what he should do. He's not. He's obeyed, even look at his last administration. He's obeyed every order. The travel ban, back to court, redo it, back to court. Okay, they said he was a dictator, but the guy followed every court ruling, no matter how insane it was, until he won the higher level court. So he probably will do that. But so we'll just be keeping an eye on the on what's going on with the court and that, and USAID, and any new things Doge uncovers. And see how the rest of these senators fall on these nomination picks. But I think Murkowski falling is pretty good. So I guess that's it for now. You can follow me at Patriot Planner 1 on my X, at Patriot Planner on Getter. And if you like this video, please follow, like, and share. All right, have a great day, guys. And I'll probably put out another video. I usually aim to do it on Thursday. I'll keep posting stuff to my X and Getter. All right. Thanks a lot.